Which creatures are considered the longest on the planet? Have you seen a bird with a wingspan of 10 feet? Or a pet python that's 23 feet long? You definitely need to see this. In this episode, you'll learn about the longest animals in the world. Medusa. This is the name of one of the longest reticulated pythons in the world, which we'll discuss now. According to data obtained in 2012, the snake's length was over 23 feet, and it weighed more than 287 pounds. The giant was kept by caring owners who lived in Kansas City. Judging by their comments, keeping Medusa was quite expensive. After all, the reticulated python was very large. Their slithering friend ate up to 31 pounds of food daily, most of which consisted of live rodents and rabbits. Is such a snake dangerous to humans? Absolutely. Despite living in domestic conditions and seemingly constantly interacting with people, it's a dangerous and predatory creature that can lose its temper and attack a person at any moment. The main thing to remember when interacting with it is that snakes, like most other creatures, sense fear. If they understand that their target's afraid, they'll likely attack it, as a target with trembling hands is unlikely to put up a fight. By the way, the most attentive ones have surely noticed that Medusa is a reticulated python. Considering this fact, the dimensions of this record holder do not seem so surprising. All her relatives grow very long, maybe not as much, but still. Usually their length reaches 16 to 20 feet and weighs up to 165 pounds. They live in tropical forests, sparse woodlands, on mountain slopes, and usually hunt under the cover of night. This snake is not venomous, but considering that it's the longest in the entire world fauna, hunting usually does not pose any difficulties for it. The main prey of the reticulated python consists of various vertebrates such as monkeys, small ungulates, rodents, and reptiles. However, they often attack domestic animals. There's a known case when huge reticulated pythons ate pigs weighing over 132 pounds. After all, in the battle these snakes start, they have few equals. Omar. No, our next guest again looks different than he should if you judge by the name. This time Omar is a Maine Coon cat. He's large but not at all scary. Just look at this handsome fellow. He's undoubtedly huge and may seem evil to some because of this, but in reality, Omar is the kindest pet you could imagine. This magnificent cat from Australia measured over 47 inches in length at the time of measurement. Moreover, he was only 3 years old then, and all that interested him was where to walk and what to eat. Would you like to have such a pet that stands on its hind legs and reaches your waist? Write in the comments. While you're writing, I'll tell you a little more about the breed itself. The Maine Coon is considered to originate from North America. This cat became known in the 19th century. At that time, giant cats were actively used on farms. They drove away rats, mice, and generally protected the crops from any uninvited guests. At the same time, no one knows exactly how such large cats originated. A popular version says that similar cats were brought to the continent from Asia or Europe. And then through natural selection, and with the help of the Norwegian forest cat, Maine Coons appeared. Be that as it may, cats of this breed are real giants compared to classic domestic fluffballs. Males can weigh over 18 pounds, with a height at the withers of up to 16 inches. Despite all this, the character of these cats is simply delightful. This animal possesses boundless affection and sharp intelligence that it would be unfair to call it a beast. It's a friend and comrade to humans who understands its dimensions perfectly and, for example, does not jump on its owner from a run like many other cat breeds do. Additionally, Maine Coons do not demand affection. They assume that if a person is not paying attention to them, it means they're busy, and as soon as they're free, the games will resume immediately. Now I suggest moving away from the usual creatures we all know and looking at something quite different. This strange substance you see now is the longest creature on the planet. While the blue whale grows up to 108 feet, Linnaeus longissimus can reach 180 to 200 feet. But who is it? Why is it so large? Well, it's a representative of ribbon worms, Nemerti, which can be found mainly in cold European waters. Its winding coils, tied in many knots, hide under coastal stones and in muddy sand. Often it can be found in rock crevices or tide pools. Despite its sometimes impressive size, the worm itself is quite harmless. The only ones who should be wary of it are crabs, mollusks, and other worms. It has special plans for digesting them. By the way, do you know how this creature hunts? It uses a retractable proboscis with sticky extensions at the end. It's worth noting, despite its large dimensions and promising hunting style, Linnaeus longissimus often becomes prey itself. However, it never goes down without a fight. For protection, our guest uses thick mucus that covers its entire body. Moreover, the secret is not just in texture. The mucus contains a strong neurotoxin that causes paralysis in other invertebrates. At the same time, according to studies, the toxin affects mammals much less, and it does not affect humans at all. The purple sock. Next up is another worm, but this one is quite different from our previous guest. Here is a marine predator living at a depth of up to 130 feet. The length of an adult can be from 6.5 to 10 feet. The purple Australian worm prefers to hunt any small fish swimming nearby. As soon as it spots a potential prey, it makes a lightning-fast dash, grabs it, and drags it along. Interestingly, if the prey is too little for some reason and our worm is forced to starve, it can survive for up to a whole year. How it manages this is still unknown, but it's simply amazing. As I said, the purple Australian worm hunts passing prey. It hides under the sand. You may ask a logical question, but how does it know when to emerge and attack? I'll tell you. It uses head appendages that sense water vibrations around and detect the movements of potential victims. So our worm has grabbed the prey, but suddenly it turns out that the target is too large. What to do in this case? Don't worry, Mother Nature has taken care of this scenario too. Not only are all the jaws of our guest saturated with paralyzing poison, but it turns out that the whole body is toxic. For this reason, the creature does not need to kill the enemy on the spot. It can wait a bit, and the poison will do all the work for it. It's amazing how a once tiny and completely harmless creature, which is also a worm, grows into a real cold-blooded killer who will stop at nothing. King of herrings. Tell me, am I the only one who thinks that when a creature has a name with the word king in it, it cannot be small and weak? And no, the king of herrings is no exception. Here is the longest of the living bony fish. The largest specimen of the herring king reaches 36 feet in length. The maximum recorded weight was 600 pounds. To give you an idea, the average individuals of this fish are 3 to 35 times smaller. No one knows how the creature grew to such dimensions, but to be fair, few people care. I think a giant with a promising name should be expected. By the way, I'll tell you for the future, just in case you meet a record specimen. It's easy to distinguish the king of herrings from others. Just pay attention to the way the fish moves. Our guest has a peculiar style. The king of herrings swims vertically with its head proudly raised. To an observer, it may seem like a strange, long ribbon descending into the depths or rising to the surface. It can swim horizontally, but it does so rarely. One large fin serves as a majestic crown. It's easy to guess that developing high speed with such a movement method is impossible. Therefore, if the fish needs to speed up urgently, it starts wriggling its whole body like a snake. Today, we've already observed a creature that can be longer than a blue whale. But worms are not the only creatures in nature capable of such lengths. The lion's mane jellyfish, for example, can also grow to impressive sizes. This jellyfish is considered the largest of its kind in the entire world's oceans. Typically, lion's mane jellyfish grow no more than 24 inches in length, but our guest can have a bell length of 8 feet and tentacles reaching 120 feet. Its other name, Arctic, was given in honor of its habitat. It swims in the waters of the Arctic Ocean and the northern seas of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, and it's almost impossible to find it south of these regions. The further from the Arctic, the smaller it grows. Most of the time, lion's mane jellyfish float in the surface layer of the water, periodically contracting their bell and making strokes with their marginal lobes. It's worth remembering that these jellyfish are by no means harmless creatures. They're true predators. Otherwise, there would be no reason for their long tentacles. These tentacles are densely packed with stinging cells. When fired into the body of a victim, a potent venom is injected, killing small animals and causing significant damage to larger ones. Usually the prey of the lion's mane or Arctic jellyfish consists of planktonic organisms, but it sometimes feeds on other jellyfish as well. Snowy albatross. Remember the name of this bird because it's considered to have one of the largest wingspans. It can exceed 10 feet. Moreover, the wandering albatross is one of the largest flying birds with a body length of up to 47 inches and a weight of up to 24 pounds. As is typical for other large creatures, the wandering albatross does not waste energy needlessly. Instead of flapping its wings in the air, it prefers to maneuver among the winds and warm currents with its wings spread. Great gliders accelerate to 60 kilometers per hour without a single flap. This way they can cover long distances without spending much energy. Besides their huge wings and significant overall size, these birds are capable of such feats thanks to their proper diet. They have a high-protein diet consisting of fish, squid, and crustaceans. As soon as a source of protein is spotted, our albatross accelerates and dives after it to a depth of up to 40 feet. North African ostrich. This bird, I believe, needs no introduction. From an early age, we're taught that ostriches are the largest of modern birds. Indeed, their height reaches up to 10 feet, and they weigh over 330 pounds. With a fairly dense build and a long neck, they navigate their surroundings excellently and can stand up for themselves. Despite being flightless birds with underdeveloped chest muscles, they have no survival problems. Due to their height and keen eyesight, they're usually the first to spot potential danger and are always ready to run, reaching speeds of up to 43 miles per hour. The length of one stride can be 13 feet. Additionally, if necessary, the African ostrich can change its running direction without losing speed. Other creatures cannot do this, so they cannot keep up with our guest. Furthermore, the ostrich does not always run away. As I said, ostriches can stand up for themselves, and they're aided by a large and sharp claw on each leg. With this weapon, the bird can inflict severe injuries or even knock out a bold attacker. Whale shark. Yes, as you understand, we are now talking about an underwater creature, specifically a shark. If you ask a random passerby on the street which shark is the largest, I think most will name the great white. Firstly, it's well known, and secondly, everyone knows it's very large. Yes, the great white shark is indeed quite large, but it cannot compare to the whale shark. Our guest is the largest of all existing shark species and the largest of modern fish. Its maximum size reaches at least 41 feet, although some say it can grow to 60 to 66 feet. And no, despite such terrifying sizes, it's not gone mad and doesn't eat everyone indiscriminately. The whale shark feeds primarily on plankton, filtering it from the water using a special apparatus formed by gill arches. Moreover, the whale shark is in no hurry. Despite always being hungry, our guest swims at a speed usually not exceeding 3 miles per hour. None of the other marine inhabitants want to attack it, and the shark itself is in no hurry to show aggression. Towards humans, by the way, this creature is also completely loyal. Although I would be scared to meet this shark in person. No matter how you look at it, it has a terrifyingly huge mouth with thousands of teeth, and knowing that it feeds on plankton doesn't make me feel any better. A creepy fish with incredibly strong armor and an unusual way of moving, and an amazing jellyfish that creates a hypnotic effect. Next, I'll show you these and other interesting and unknown creatures filmed by divers in the depths of the sea. Firework jellyfish. If you thought that there's nothing fun and interesting at the bottom of the world ocean, that there's nothing but gloom, boredom, and darkness, then you're deeply mistaken. At a depth of 4,000 feet, a few years ago, scientists found a real fireworks of the deep sea world. The discovery was made near Mexico using a device that was remotely controlled. Here, look at this jellyfish. It does look like it's setting off fireworks, doesn't it? It's got 70 of these brightly colored tentacles. The mystery of the jellyfish's glow wasn't so difficult. The bell and channels of the tentacles are covered with a substance that reflects directed light in such an unusual way. And if you do not shine the light on the jellyfish, it looks completely unremarkable, jelly and transparent. At the same time, the width of its bell doesn't stand out much. It's about 22 inches. But these thin tentacles of the jellyfish are not only a decorative object, but also a rather effective tool that helps it move and catch prey. SpongeBob and Patrick. And since I'm talking about characters from the well-known animated TV series, let's also take a look at the two main characters which were discovered at the bottom along with Mrs. Puff. A deep-sea drone filmed a real sponge lying together with a starfish.
And that this is apparently a real-life Patrick from SpongeBob.
According to the divers, no one placed them in that position on purpose. Everything was in its place before the humans arrived. If that's true, then it's some kind of crazy coincidence. What can I tell you? Let's wait for Ariel to get caught on camera, and Nemo will be found after her. Death trap. Okay, that's a fly trap, a common one that we've all known for a long time. Well, or at least the one we've seen somewhere in the past. And this is a sea anemone, a deep-sea coral polyp that noticed the fly trap's hunting style on the underwater television and decided to copy it as brazenly as possible. Either hiding from shame or just wanting to remain unnoticed, the sea anemone dived to a depth of several thousand feet and settled there successfully. It's standing there, not twitching, waiting for some crustaceans or mollusks to swim by. As soon as they're within its reach, it eats them and neutralizes the prey with thread cells, later digesting all the little things in the intestine. By the way, the sea anemone does not have other organs, so thanks to that very intestine, it clings to the seabed. However, the sea anemone does not stand still all its life. It became known that from birth, these creatures lead a more active lifestyle and travel often. Yes, they don't walk very fast, but the main thing is that they walk. And when they reach an advanced age, they sit down in a more comfortable place with a clear conscience and stay there forever. But the armored sea robin, on the other hand, is not going to stop even as the years go by. I agree its name is not the most intimidating, but its appearance and the way it walks along the bottom like a spider moving its outgrowths cannot but inspire fear. The creature lives at depths of up to 2,600 feet, and it can be distinguished from the rest by the following signs: a large head covered with outgrowths and thorns, a long snake body protected by a heavy shell, and a love of singing. In the impenetrable darkness where they usually live, the little Cthulhu is always muttering, howling, or whistling. I also told you about his armor. Well, it's not the simplest of armor. It's made up of bone armor that protects the body of the beast from predators. And there's a lot to protect, believe me. As it turned out, these terrible monsters are hunted not only by witches and exorcists, but also by ordinary people who want to eat their delicious meat. And if no danger awaits the sea-armored sea robin, it may think about its own lunch. In its search, by the way, the creature is helped by these antennae, dotted with sensitive receptors. With their help, it can easily find some delicious crayfish, shrimp, or small fish. Is it alive? The next story is connected with fishing in Alaska. People have often traveled there, but usually found nothing strange or supernatural. But not this time. Unexpectedly for all of them, they came across this monster which looked like a living coral with thin tentacles. For some reason, it reminded me of the monsters from Pirates of the Caribbean. Okay, it's not that scary, the fishermen thought. But when they turned the creature over for the sake of interest, the fear reappeared and went through them. Under the monster, the people found strange veins, as in the larva of the alien, which in the movies tightly clung to the victim's face. What kind of miracle in nature is this? Will someone explain it to me? Because the authors of the video, just like the scientists who examined the data, could not comment on it. Glowing creature. And here is another underwater monster, the mere sight of which makes your blood run cold. The only good thing is that this time this horror of the depths is known to science. I mean, it's clear to everyone that we're looking at a fish, though an unusual one. The creature is capable of bioluminescence, that is, of glowing to attract prey. Smaller creatures see the light in the impenetrable deep-sea darkness and swim to it, expecting to find relief from hunger there. In fact, they do find it, just not in the way they probably want. It's unlikely that these gigantic and razor-sharp teeth let anyone go free at all. You wanted an alien encounter, right? Well, here it is. I mean, what are aliens to us? They're beings unlike anything we've ever known before, organisms from another planet. It seems to me that organisms from the seafloor would fit that definition better than any other. In 2009, a group of scientists went on a long journey, during which they had to study a lot of new islands as well as points on the ocean floor. They had to take samples, launch the appropriate mechanisms, in general, fill their arsenal with a variety of creatures. They managed to do it so well that the subsequent genetic study of the materials took another dozen years. However, this work was particularly valuable because it helped them make several critical statements at once. First, at the very bottom of the world ocean, where darkness, low temperatures, and hellish pressure that crushes even bath escapes, life is 3 times more diverse than at higher levels. Second, 2/3 of that diversity is made up of species unknown to science. Until now, biology has known 11,000 species of plankton, and now it turns out that there are at least 10 times as many. And thirdly, modern scientists not only have not seen these species, but do not even know what genus or family they could be attributed. So incomprehensible and unstudied are they to them. Aren't these aliens? To encounter them, you don't even have to fly anywhere, just dive to the bottom of the ocean. Monster of the depths. Lollipop cat shark. Some might think that this is a very dangerous animal, as if it were some huge and at the same time insanely dangerous predator ready to devour anyone who gets in its way. And then you look at real pictures of this monster and realize there's nothing to be afraid of. Yes, it's a full-fledged adult, not some kind of newly born shark. It's only about 8 inches long and lives at the depths of the Gulf of California, where there's little oxygen. There are hydrothermal vents at the bottom, and they spew iron, zinc, nickel, fill the water with hydrogen sulfide. In short, ordinary fish would die within seconds of being in this place. But the lollipop cat shark manages not only to survive, but also to reproduce successfully in such difficult conditions. Sea devils, giant single-celled organisms, and devil worms. Keep watching, it'll be interesting as we dive even deeper. Sharks are the kind of fish that every sane person would want to avoid seeing. You can call me strange, but for some reason I wouldn't mind seeing such a fish as the goblin shark one day. The fact is that it's one of the oldest species of all sharks, which is confirmed by their found fossils and teeth, which are tens of millions of years old. Moreover, the fish attracts attention by its absurd appearance. Almost 13-foot-long adults have translucent pinkish skin with translucent vessels. In addition, they have an unusual outgrowth on their nose, which is used to search for food in the deep sea. In general, the species' name alone speaks for itself, the goblin shark. When you hear it, I imagine some kind of ugly and light-intolerant fish, which in fact it is. You can encounter a shark, on average, at a depth of about 1,000 feet, but some especially shy creatures are free to live deeper than 3,000 feet. Now I'll show you another species of shark, which is not like them anymore. It's understandable because the frilled shark is a real treasure for explorers. The dangerous creature has not changed at all for thousands of years of its existence. For example, its spine is not divided into vertebrae. The word frilled in the name arose because of the gills which intersect at the throat and form something similar in appearance to a frill. The average length of these fish is about 5 feet, but the frilled shark can grow up to 6.5 feet. They don't have problems with prey because of the mouth located in front. Speaking of it, the mouth of the frilled shark has about 300 teeth. Located in an unusual position for other sharks, first come the small teeth and then the long ones. Externally, these creatures could rather be attributed to eels or snakes than to sharks. This prehistoric monster lives in the waters of the Atlantic Ocean at a depth of more than 980 feet. No one's been able to catch such a shark in recent times, so its existence is questionable. On the other hand, because of its physical abilities, the shark simply has no equals in the underwater world. So nothing should bode ill for their genera and species. By the way, do you know how such sharks attack? They shrink down and literally shoot toward their prey, swallowing it whole if possible. These creatures can swallow prey half their body length. Common fangtooth. I think it's obvious to all of us by the name of this creature, what its main advantage is. It is, of course, its teeth. And they're so well developed that the common fangtooth can tear an enemy 1/3 larger than itself. Of course, you have to manage not to be able to defeat the enemy when you have special sheaths in your jaw for the tips of your teeth, because they don't fit in your mouth when your jaw's closed. Sounds super scary and incredible at the same time, don't you agree? Except now I have to let you in on a little secret. Common fangtooth is actually a shorty. Usually the length of these fish is about 7.8 inches. Nevertheless, this does not prevent them from diving to a depth of more than 3,000 feet, where they feel great and scare the fish so frightened by the circumstances. Not without reason that those fish have gone so deep, is it? As you can see, the depths of the underwater world are really amazing with its inhabitants. It's not for nothing that they say, the deeper into the sea, the uglier its inhabitants. But this doesn't apply to all creatures. Here, for example, is Grimpotoithus. Yeah, the name's difficult to pronounce. Fortunately, at least in its appearance, this little guy boosts your spirits. By the way, because of its funny ears, many people compare this creature to Dumbo the elephant. Well, the one from Disney's animated movie. As for the habitat of this beauty, it usually begins at about 1,300 feet underwater, but it can go up to 3,000, 6,000, 9,000, heck, even 20,000 feet. At the same time, the size of this baby is only 7 inches in length or so. Of course, there are overgrowths which are 6 feet long, but it's rather an exception. The body shape of underwater Dumbo resembles a bell. And because it's jelly-like, Grimpotoithus can easily cope with the enormous pressure inherent in such depths. Another attribute of this animal is its big eyes. Yeah, it would have no end of girls on land, but in this habitat its eyes are practically useless. In the sea abyss, there is an impenetrable darkness. The octopus uses its tentacles and special super-sensitive antennae to determine where to swim in order not to run into an obstacle. European angler. It sounds like the nickname of a European navigator or something like that. In fact, it's much more interesting than that. It's a fish that manages to literally jump on the bottom. It's called a sea devil in some languages, most likely because of its devilishly large belly. As soon as the creature sees prey, it easily sucks it in. The target can reach the size of the European angler itself. Another version of origin of the name is because of frightening appearance. Huge head, enormous fins, slippery and disgusting frog-like body, and as an addition, various skin outgrowths all over the body. But if you can't identify fish by these features, you can use the following tip. European anglers have a kind of glowing fishing rod on their head. The fish adjusts its glow by narrowing or expanding its arterial walls. With the help of this rod, the fish lures other underwater inhabitants, which swim to the light with hope and interest. As soon as they get close, the European angler eats them. Macropinna. This amazing creature is astonishing in its appearance. The fish is only 0.9 inches long, but just take the transparent head alone. Through it, by the way, you can see beautiful oval eyes. However, those are not eyes, they're nasal capsules. The eye organ of Macropinna has an oval shape and is located inside a transparent dome. The eyes of the fish have high aperture lens, which help better perceive light at those depths where the creature lives. It lives, by the way, at a depth of 1,640 feet. That's not the end of its eye's features. Just imagine. It can see the prey in front of its own mouth. But most of all, as you've already guessed, the transparent head of the fish surprises. In fact, this cover acts as sort of a shield mounted on large scales behind the head. The whole structure is indescribably beautiful and unfortunately fragile. It's because of this that when such fish were caught by nets, they all came up already without their shield. Pelican eel. This is one of the most unusual sea creatures, which at first glance seems like a common, ordinary eel. But it seems so until the creature opens its mouth. The pelican eel lives at a depth of up to 16,000 feet. It's mostly dark in color and is about 5 feet in length. But these guys don't care about other distinctive features because the highlight is always a huge lower jaw and elongated throat with a leathery sac, reminiscent of the pelican's gular sac, for which pelican eels got their name. Exactly like its brother by name, this fish uses adaptation to scoop large volumes of water into its mouth and hold its prey there. Scientists have an interesting assumption about their mouth, that it contains some glands that secrete substances and digest their prey before it's swallowed. Devil worm. And this creature is more than real. Although it's difficult to believe in its existence at a depth of several kilometers. Besides, I'm not talking about some fish, but an ordinary worm. However, I probably rushed with the word ordinary. More than 10 years ago, this species of worm was discovered by a team exploring the underground world around the Beatrix gold mine in South Africa. There, at a depth of more than 1.8 miles, a worm lived which had a frightening appearance. For a long time, scientists couldn't understand how it could do it. But they soon came to an interesting conclusion. It turned out that these little guys borrowed the key gene from fungi that live among the roots of plants. It was this property that allowed the devil worm to survive in high temperatures and pressures. Just imagine, the creature lives under constant heat of more than 104 degrees Fahrenheit, and with a complete lack of oxygen. To me, that's incredible. But don't rush to think that this giant spider is the most dangerous and nastiest creature that can live there. Unfortunately, it isn't. In the depths of the Congo Basin, hidden in remote parts of the forest, lives a creature that's been talked about for centuries. It's an elusive monster with a long neck, barrel-shaped body, and short legs. Even in pre-colonial times, people often mentioned it. This was the first time European explorers encountered it. Out of a group of 15 people, only 3 returned. I think you can understand the reason for this reduction in scientific personnel. No one was going to tell about such a horror because otherwise panic would have risen and people would have gone crazy. But there was nothing anyone could do about it, not immediately, but gradually did information leak through the word of mouth and eventually ceased to be a secret. Today, among the local tribes, the strange monster is known as Mokele Mbembe, and the residents of these areas do not doubt its existence, just as we do not doubt the existence of dogs and cats. Observation of this cryptid and the collection of information continue to this day, which makes the search for this creature one of the most exciting cryptozoological quests. Do you know how the name of this creature translates? It means the one who stops the flow of rivers. It sounds very scary and unusual, right? There's no evidence for the existence of this monster today. The only proof is the words of tribesmen who say that they've personally seen Mokele Mbembe. It's up to you to decide whether it's true or not. But the legend was born. According to it, the tribes built giant fences so that the local monster didn't interfere with their fishing. One day, the process bore fruit. Mokele Mbembe was caught. It was helpless and fell in front of a large crowd of people. The villagers who feasted on the occasion were overjoyed, so much so that they devoured the whole giant in less than an hour. But they didn't know that at that very moment they had signed their own death warrant. It turns out that the monster's meat was soaked with poison, and anyone who dared eat the giant that stopped the flow of rivers went after it to the other world. That's all, guys. Which creature did you find most frightening? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you later.